Hello. Can everybody hear me? I didn't lie to you, Boogeyman. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Murder Mondays, where I am going to be reading and we're just going to hang out and shoot shit and do all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, I'm on right now. Can you guys hear me and see me? Hey, what's up, Nightmare Files? Hey, thank you. Takes me 30 seconds to grow this beard. Actually, I shaved this morning. I don't think there should be an echo. I have it all set up with my mic and everything else, so I'm not sure why. Does anyone else have a problem with echoing? My files, brother. All right, so would you guys like to... There is an echo. Oh, no, there isn't an echo? Okay. Don't do that, man. And my chat's disappearing again. That's beautiful. You see a... Oh, that's just a little crappy wooden sword I made. I have a wakizashi too, but nah, that's just back there because, well, I just keep it there. All right. So you guys want to shoot the shit for a little bit and just talk a little bit, or do you want me to just start the reading? You guys are going to be running the show here, so just let me know what you want to do. The bed is unmade because it's unmade. Because I'm a dude. And I looked in my bag of fucks and it's empty. I'm sorry. My bag of fucks is empty. Well, I hope you all are having a good night tonight. And if you want, I can just start reading. I got 3 stories lined up. One of the people that... Oh, it's not a window. That's my fuse box. That's what it is. Yeah, I had to clean up the mess, change my sheets, all that sort of stuff, remove the plastic, that sort of thing. That's why it's called Murder Mondays. Come on, you guys think this was a gimmick? All right, so is Meg here? Meg, I am calling you out. Are you here? If you're not here, then I'm not reading your story. Eldritch is here. All right, so Eldritch gave me a story to read, so I will read that one first since I don't see anyone else. Oh, Meg is somebody that's on my server, and she was on Ronnie's server too. Hello, Haley. All right, so I will start off with this story. It's called Are My Twins Spending Too Much Time Together? It's written by M. Lobdell1. Hi, moms. My twin girls, Siabhan and Sharon, are spending a lot of time together. They've always been close, but it seems like they've already gravitated towards one another since they started getting their grown-up teeth. I tried looking to see if Dr. Wheeler's website had any info about this, and there wasn't anything much. Does anyone else have experience with this? Hi, moms. I wrote the other day. Oh, wait, there's a little thing up here. All right, I'll read this too. This account was found on a data dump. of a now offline website, wokemommies.com. It was a site dedicated to alternative medicine and natural treatments of illness. Its contents was marked by an explicit distrust of modern medical science, claims of vaccine reactions, and corrupt doctors. No timestamps exist for the content, nor have any participants been identified in an official capacity. Hi, moms. My twin girls, Siobhan and Sharon, are spending a lot of time together. They've always been close, but it seems like they've really gravitated towards one another since they started getting their grown-up teeth. I tried looking to see if Dr. Wheeler's website had any info about this, and there wasn't much. Does anyone else have experience with this? Hi, moms. I wrote the other day about my little Siobhan and Sharon, who've been spending what I feel is too much time together. I think it's gotten worse. Now they cry when I separate them. I don't want to make my girls upset, but they even insist on sleeping in the same bed and going into the bedroom together. I homeschool, of course. I've read too many scary stories about vaccines and vaccine reactions that make me want nothing to do with vaxxer kids. But I'm worried that's making them get more dependent on one another since they're in the house all day. By the way, I want to thank the mommy who replied last time with the recommendation to use that special root extract on the girls' loose teeth. I was able to find the root in the backyard, and it's helped with the inflammation and pain. Hey, fellow moms. It's the old lady who was worried about her twins being codependent. Well, they're still inseparable, but they're less moody about it. No crying or screaming or anything. I was racking my brain to figure out why they were like that in the first place. And I was thinking it was because of their stupid deadbeat dad walked out on them. Does that make sense? I'm still using the root extract on their gums, and they haven't complained about loose tooth pain in a while. So I really do recommend it to everyone. God knows it's worth a try, since it's natural and won't cause anything like autism or any of the other vaccine reactions. As sort of an aside, do any of you other mommies see angels? I know it sounds silly, but my guardian angel watches over me and my girls. He's beautiful. Wow, that last one got a lot of attention. Don't worry, moms. I want to address the concern of mommy underscore 32114 directly. I promise he's a good angel. All he does is tell me things. What? Oh, I see. It's a misspell. It says it. All he does is tell me about things that'll help with the girls or make me feel better when I'm sad, or reveals the natural stuff in the yard or forest. He's more like a New Testament angel than a vengeful Old Testament one. Haha. Back on topic of the twins, the girls are the same. I gotta admit, it was pretty cute this morning when I walked in on the girls sleeping and Sharon had her mouth open and Siobhan had her lips in there like she was a bird. They've never done that before. I'll try to take a picture next time I find them like that again. Now, when this mommy makes a promise, she delivers. And there's a couple of files listed here. DSC underscore 02216.jpg. Then there's 02217 and 18. Look how cute they are. Sorry about the messy bedroom. That time it was Sharon's lips and Siobhan's mouth while they slept. They cried when I woke them up, and both their gums were bleeding a little this morning. So I made it a point to dig up some more of that root to soothe them. It just occurred to me today, but does any of you know if that root extract interacts with the ingredients with the Flower Power, Immune Boost, and Brainmaster supplements that Dr. Wheeler sells on his website? I've been giving the girls triple doses of those three for the last 2 years to give them a leg up on all of the kids in the public school. It's bad enough the tests are biased towards the kids who get indoctrinated in those factory schools. I don't want my girls to fall behind. The deck's stacked against us woke mommies, lol. I'm gonna go give the girls a bath. They're super sticky for some reason. I bet they got in the sweets again. Okay, moms, I don't want to sound like one of those Bible thumper ladies, but I really want to talk to you about angels. I think it is so important that you all believe in them. Without my guardian angel, I would have no support in this world. It's a really dark place. My girls are good, don't get me wrong, but they're still babies. They don't know anything. My angel blah, blah. My angel visited me overnight and helped me feel like a woman again. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry if that's smutty to some of you. I don't mean to cause any offense. Afterward, he told me about how I needed to nurture my girls even more. I'd been neglecting their care even when I thought I was doing my best. With my angel watching over me and making sure I didn't do anything wrong, I took out the rest of their baby teeth. I gave them big extra doses of Dr. Wheeler's supplements and gave them pieces of the root to chew. They never cried. They never protested. They just sat they just sat on the kitchen chairs and stared at each other, holding hands. They hold hands all the time now. I barely notice them sleeping with their lips in each other's mouth anymore. I need to find a lock for the sweets cabinet, though, because they're always sticky. Wow, I got a lot of private messages from you folks overnight. Don't worry, seriously. My girls are just fine, and my angel isn't. My girls are just fine, and my angel is there all the time now. So it's like their daddy's in the picture again. No, the girls can't see him, but he talks through me. He's so supportive. There's one problem I want to talk about, so I hope some of you ruder moms keep your opinions to yourself and let the helpful ones offer advice. You know how the girls are sleeping with their mouths sort of inside one another? It was hard to get them apart today. It was like something was connecting them. And when I saw inside their mouths, it was like there was these red strings connecting at the holes in their gums. The strings came apart pretty easy and there was a little blood, but they seemed no worse for wear, aside from their stickiness. Even after I gave them their baths, they're still sticky. It's not bad when I touch them or when I take their clothes off, but when they hold hands, it's darn near impossible to pull them apart without leaving bruises. I know there's a few moms here who's vaccinated their kids before they knew about all the bad vaccine reactions. So I need to ask, do any of these things happen to your children? I've heard vaccines can travel through the air sometimes, and I'm really scared the girls might have picked something up when we went to the store. Problem solved, moms. Everything. Oh boy, oh boy. This has been a whole big to do over nothing. First of all, I want to offer a big thank you to all the moms who helped me over these last couple of weeks. Thank you for not judging me, and thank you for understanding what I was going through. So here's your last update. It had nothing to do with bad vaccine reactions from the airborne vaccinations. I wish I hadn't gotten that in my head over the last few days, but at least it's been eliminated as a possibility. Here's the thing. There was never anything wrong with the girls in the first place. When my angel told me this morning, it took some time for me to be convinced, but it made so much sense once it sunk in. Remember, my girls are twins. They came from the same egg and everything, and that egg came from me, their loving mommy. Well, it was divine intervention that I used all those supplements from Dr. Wheeler and the root from the yard. It's all helping bring my girls together, really together, just like they were before they were born. I've stopped pulling them apart. They're still in bed, but they're wide awake and they've got big smiles, even though their mouths are wide open. Those red strings have gotten thicker and darker and have little veins running through them. I don't think I could pull them apart if I wanted to. They're meant to be back together, joined. That right combination of natural supplements is what did it. Sharon and Siobhan are going to be one big girl, not two little ones. I think twins are just another thing that nature didn't intend to happen, and now it's all getting fixed. Even now, I can hear the sound of them combining in the other room. There was a weird wet sound about an hour ago that spooked me, but when I ran in to see what was happening, it was just their soft little bellies opening up all the parts inside, joining together. I'm not looking forward to cleaning that bedspread when they're done, but I'm so excited my girls are growing up right. It's one of those things that makes a mom proud. there's that story. Oh, well, apparently I was pronouncing Chauvin wrong the whole time, but either way. Yes, please, if you guys could share this, that would be awesome. As a matter of fact, I am going to share it right now on Twitter. Alrighty. And now I will read the one that I missed from Friday's live stream. Well, hold on. Let me see who's all here and everything real quick. Anyone new? Let me scroll up a little bit because I can't. Oh, Johnny's here now. Hello, Johnny. I'm about to read your story because I seen that you were here. Thank you, everybody that retweeted it and shared it. I appreciate it. Yeah, hey, Pinky's not old. She's younger than I am. All right. This Johnny shared with me last Friday, but I missed it. This is called The Pigeons Around Here Aren't Real. It's from Manin Lyset, I think I'm not sure how to pronounce that. All right, so here we go. It's no secret that big cities have a pigeon problems. Toronto was no exception. Like rats in the Middle Ages, the disease-carrying vermin spent the past decade running amok and increasing their numbers. It was my job to try and keep Toronto's ever-growing pigeon population in check. Thankfully, I came across an article about a pilot project where researchers replaced pigeon eggs with wooden substitutes. The birds, too stupid to know the difference, spent months caring for the fake eggs instead of producing more. The project was a huge success, and the pigeon population decreased significantly in a short amount of time. It sounded like the perfect plan, so I implemented the solution in my city. What I didn't count on was for those fake eggs to hatch, and for the abominations inside to be released into the world. Clint, my partner, came in one morning carrying a large wooden crate with straw poking out of every crevice. "Looks like Christmas came early this year," he said. "What is this stuff?" I walked over excitedly, helping him set the box down on a workbench. "This," I said, prying it open to reveal its contents, "is the solution to our pigeon problem." Reaching inside, I took one of the eggs. I was a little disappointed to see that they weren't wooden as promised. Instead, they were thin, light, and hollow like those cheap plastic Easter eggs. It wasn't close to what I was expecting. Oh well, that's what you get for ordering off eBay, I thought. Clint took a handful. "These are the replicas you ordered? They don't feel remotely the same as the real deal." We were well aware what the eggs felt like. Up until then, the only way to decrease the pigeon population was to sneak into their nest and steal the eggs. It was a futile, temporary solution because the birds would just lay new eggs once they realized theirs were gone. That's what made the idea of using substitutes so damn good. "It's fine, Clint. They don't have to fool us. They just have to fool the pigeons. This'll work, trust me," I answered. I was right. The pigeons fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. A few months passed, and we started seeing a decline in the amount of younger birds in the area. I can't tell you how proud I was of what I'd done. I'd found a safe, environmentally friendly way of dealing with the flying rats at the cheap cost of a few $100s and an elevator trip to pigeon nesting grounds atop the high-rise rooftops around the city. The problem started about 3 months in. Clint and I were inspecting the nest on the opposite side of the city. I was halfway up the building when Clint called me. "Yo," I said as I brought the phone to my ear. The sound of wind could be heard in the background. Evidently, Clint had reached his destination. Hey, some of our eggs broke, he announced. The elevator came to a stop, doors swinging open to let me off. I stepped out and made my way to a small staircase leading to the rooftop. We'll just have to replace them. No big deal, I answered nonchalantly. There had been a few violent storms since our last inspection, and I figured the eggs must have fallen from the nest and shattered upon impact. See, this is why wood would have been better, I grumbled to myself. As I exited onto the rooftop for my inspection, well, fuck, I said. What? Answered Clint. Most of my eggs were broken too. The strange thing was that they were still tucked in the nest, right where we had left them. Had the pigeons figured out our ploy and attacked the replicas? Were the fake eggs too frail to survive our harsh Canadian winter or weather? I groaned. It's a shame. It's the same here. We're going to have to start over, I told him, defeated. Clint laughed. It's all good. We can hatch a new plan. I paused for a moment. Did you just... I began, but he interrupted. I just took on the sunny side up of things, yeah? Puns. At a time like this, puns. Don't yoke with me, I replied with a sigh. I couldn't leave the nest unattended for too long, otherwise all our progress would go down the drain. I sent Clint to replace the broken eggs with what was left from our original order. In the meantime, I searched online for anyone selling wooden eggs. Unfortunately, the cheapest and fastest shipper was the person we ordered from the first time around. We needed these eggs quickly, and our budget was pretty tight. I figured I'd order the subpar eggs one more time. If they lasted long enough for city officials to see the plan was working nicely, then I was sure I could convince them to increase our budget so we could order better supplies the next fiscal year. Just to be sure the pigeons weren't attacking our fake eggs, I also set up a security camera on one of the rooftops. I needed to know if they'd gotten wise to our ruse, though I highly doubted they had the mental capacity to do so. Still, the project would prove fruitless if the birds weren't fooled by our cheap imitations. So it was best to keep an eye out. Over the course of the following weeks, I started getting strange reports about small animals behaving weirdly. Frankly, I didn't pay much attention to them at first. They sounded a little insane, to tell the truth. One woman claimed she'd seen a pigeon climb a tree. She said he'd crawled up the bark like a squirrel. Another report stated that a chipmunk had been seen attacking and killing a neighborhood dog. Another witness called in about an injured cat, but when he investigated, all he found was a pelt. By the time I read the fifth report, I was starting to get a little worried. What was even more troubling to me was that these reports were coming from all over the city. If it had been confined to a single neighborhood, I would have suspected an outbreak of rabies or a new disease of some sort. But the reports were coming in from all around Toronto and its suburbs, which spanned an extremely large area. How could anything spread so quickly? It had to be something else. I was just about to do a bit of research on the subject when Clint came in, wearing a scowl. Broke. Shitty fucking eggs. Broke again, he grumbled, throwing himself on his chair. I forced a grin. Crack a smile, would ya? He tossed his worksheet on the table. That was an excellent pun, he replied, releasing a single chuckle. You remember to bring the footage? I asked him. He unzipped his coat and reached into his pocket for an SD card. Got you covered. Movie time, he chirped. We uploaded the footage and took a look. Pigeons. Pigeons sitting in their nest. Pigeons preening. Pigeons flapping their wings at one another. A squirrel. A squirrel getting chased away by birds. More pigeons. It must have been the dullest security tape in the world. The kind of footage that even David Attenborough's lovely voice wouldn't have been able to save. We fast forwarded through days of pigeons doing pigeony things. Never once did they show any violence towards our replica eggs. Clint had dozed off by the time something finally happened on screen. The only reason I was still conscious was due to the copious amounts of coffee I had ingested that morning. It was the dead of night. In the video, at least one of the birds flew off its eggs and perched itself on the nest, peering inside. This is it, I thought. Leaning closer to the screen, I figured he'd attack the egg, but I was wrong. I watched as the video soundlessly continued and something cracked open the egg from the inside. My jaw gaped open. This wasn't possible. The eggs were plastic shells. The only explanation was that we'd missed one real egg somewhere in the bunch. Yeah, that had to be it. I was witnessing the birth of a baby pigeon. Nothing weird. Except the baby pigeons don't look like smoke. A puff of dark air came out of the egg. The pigeon's head, inches from it, inhaled the gassy substance. It reared back and stood completely still for about a minute before falling over. I watched as it started thrashing violently like it was having a seizure. Then from its beak spewed some kind of chunky liquid that evaporated as soon as it hit the air. The pigeon's body seemed to deflate like a balloon, as though the creature was being hollowed out. I was left staring and oh no. Okay, there it is. I was left staring incredulously at the flat, immobile husk of what had once been a pigeon. Suddenly, the pigeon's chest bulged out and the animal regained its form. At least, sort of. Its proportions were all wrong. Its wings were bloated and angled oddly. Most of its girth was in its neck rather than its stomach, and its midsection had stretched out unnaturally. It was like looking at an animal pelt draped over the wrong mound. Like a lunatic taxidermist's cruel experiment. The abomination of nature jerked its head towards the ledge. It twisted onto its back, legs contorting and dislocating in such a way that as to be able to reach the ground. From its throat, I could see stump-like arms stretching out, crawling at the cement rooftop, or clawing at the cement rooftop. In a quick and jagged movement, the creature skittered over the edge and disappeared from view. I was shocked, unable to believe what I had seen. I had to watch and rewatch the video several times before it occurred to me to wake Clint up. He grumbled unhappily, rubbed his tired eyes, and looked at me. "You won't believe this," I uttered. I rewound the footage and pressed play. His eyes widened with the same disgusted disbelief as mine. Even on my fifth viewing, I couldn't wrap my head around it. "This is bad," he said. "I know," I answered. After watching the video a few more times, we went home. I think we both hoped a good night's sleep would help clear our minds. Maybe upon reviewing the tape, we'd realize we were mistaken. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Unlikely, but we could only hope. Clint was already at work when I came in. His eyes were glued to the screen. "Watching it again?" I asked. "Not exactly," he replied. "I kept going." I approached the desk and peered at the monitor. "Kept going?" I questioned. Excuse me. His face was pale and his eyes weighed down by large bags. How long had he been here? Had he come in extra early? There was 2 days left of footage on the card, there was 2 days left of footage on the card, he explained. "And you went through it?" "Yeah." "Did you see more of those things?" Clint pressed his lips together. "Yeah, and some of them came back," he explained. I raised my eyebrows, looking closer at the screen. I noticed something odd about one of the nests. There were multiple eggs resting in the sunlight. They were neither genuine pigeon eggs nor replicas. They were too big for that. Clint pointed to the batch, his hand trembling. "It laid them," he murmured. I felt a flush of nervous energy climb up my spine like an elevator, and then turned to the reports I'd been reading the day before. Were the eggs at the center of it all? We need to call the authorities, I uttered shakily. We are the authorities, he replied, his voice sounding frantic. I paced around the room, back and forth like a pendulum. The phone rang, interrupting my the phone rang, interrupting my blah, anxious march. It was another report of odd animal behavior. This time, the culprit was a deer. In a spooked and almost disgusted tone of voice, the woman on the line explained that she's seen a deer slithering along the river. She said its body was sideways, but its head was upright. Oh, God, I thought. Whatever those things were, they could affect larger animals. While I tried to comfort the worried caller, I heard something from Clint's workstation. Crack! I turned around, only to see a puff of smoke rising towards my coworker. Near his keyboard was a cracked shell, just like the ones on the rooftop. Without a word, Clint bolted into the bathroom, holding a hand over his mouth as though about to puke. I dropped the phone and ran over to the door. It was locked. Clint, are you okay? Silence. 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 All of a sudden, I heard him heaving violently. A sound of moist gurgling and boiling water erupted from the bathroom. Terrified of what would happen if Clint got out, I pushed the heavy workbench in front of the door. I stood in terrified silence as the noise came to a stop. Was Clint now lying as flat as a pancake against the porcelain throne? Would it turn into some sort of bastardization of a human body like what happened to the pigeon? Silence. 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 Clint threw himself against the door violently. Just one blow nearly threw the thing off its hinges. Again and again he slammed himself against the surface, causing the workbench I had placed in front of it to slowly inch away. All I could do was push myself against it to try to keep the door closed. My only thoughts were to keep him from escaping, for my own safety. I knew he'd attack me if I let him out. I just knew it. The sound came to an unexpected halt, allowing me to breathe a sigh of relief. Maybe he'd expired. Maybe that thing needed fresh air to survive. Whatever the reason, I thought I was safe. But then I heard a crash. The window. I'd forgotten all about the bathroom window. He's out there now, him and those other mutated atrocities. I don't know what they are or what they want. All I know is that they're roaming the city right now, doing God knows what. Most of them probably look like pigeons, but they can be anything or anyone. I just hope someone figures out how to stop them, because at last count, there were over 700 of those cursed eggs planted around Toronto. Now that I know these things can reproduce, God knows how many more eggs might be out there. Update 1. He came back. I should have known he'd come back. He warned me before. He said the creature on our recording returned to its nest to lay an egg. Those monsters seem to have the salmon mentality, going back to their place of birth when it came time to reproduce. Too busy answering a slew of panic calls, all the while panicking myself, I didn't hear him when he came in through the front door. Thankfully, I caught a shape from the corner of my eye. Without even finishing my sentence, I dropped the phone and locked myself in the maintenance closet, praying he hadn't seen me. Outside the thin wooden door, the room was quiet. If he was breathing, I couldn't hear it. His footsteps were just as silent. Had I overreacted? I hadn't actually seen Clint, just a shadow in my peripheral vision. Maybe it was my imagination. I needed to know, so I knelt and peered through the crack under the door and closed an eye to get a better look. I wish I hadn't. I wish I could erase that thing from my mind to preserve Clint's memory as the man I knew him to be. Not that. Anything but that. What I saw was a mess of flesh inching along the floor like a slug. I couldn't figure out what was facing up, his back or his chest. His spineless torso had folded over, bringing his arms nearly perfectly in line with his legs. His head, now completely shapeless, lay flat at his midsection. His mouth reminded me of the figure in Munch's famous painting, The Scream. His great eyes stared at me, but I couldn't tell, as he continued to slither towards his desk, that they were useless decorations. He disappeared from view. Then came a horrid sound, a squishy and gooey noise that reminded me of some old slime ball toys I used to play with as a child. It lasted a few moments, stopped, started again, and then stopped for good. Shaking in my boots, I remained concealed in my dark prison all day, ignoring repeated hunger pangs and my own instinct to run. I couldn't afford the risk of being caught. As days shifted into night, I began to wonder if I could sneak past him. On our security tape, I had seen normal pigeons sitting on nearby nests, seemingly unfazed by the creature. Maybe Clint wouldn't attack me. I had to take a chance. I couldn't hide forever. As quietly as I could, I swung the door open and stepped into the office. The thing wearing Clint's skin was gone. Thank God, I thought. Out of morbid curiosity, I glanced at his workstation where I'd heard the unsettling noises earlier. There were 2 massive eggs sitting on his desk, coated in a viscous substance. I didn't even want to think of the implications. I didn't want to know out of which orifice he'd laid them. I wanted nothing to do with this anymore. I ran out of the office to my car and drove straight to Kingston. I'm not going back. I will never go back. Someone else will have to deal with this situation. Update 2. I thought I could get away from them, but now I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm imagining it, but the pigeons outside look odd. Not as disproportionate and disfigured as what I saw in Toronto, but there's something wrong about the way they move. I think those things are learning to better mimic the shape of what they're possessing, and now they've spread. All right, that's that one. I gotta check this message I got. Oh, it's Reapers. See in here? Who's all here? So, did Meg ever show up? Because I still don't have the story she wanted me to read. Thank you. I screw up a couple times, but it's pretty much impossible for me not to every once in a while. Does anyone else have any other stories? Yeah, that was a pretty cool story, actually. It was really long, too. As a matter of fact, I better take a drink of water. Yes, there is a guitar back there, Ed, but I'm not very good on the guitar yet. So does any... See, my chat, it just keeps vanishing on me, and I don't know why. Come back to me, chat. The struggle is real. Squidward suicide. That's the one that's like about that clip or something, right? It's like about that I think it's like a fake episode of SpongeBob or something along those lines. I've seen it done. Oh yeah, I gotta edit my stories too, Ed. Yeah, it's hard to read through a whole story without screwing up once. But I have to say, Ed, that first, the Skinners, I think that was all in like one take, dude. I don't think because I didn't know how to edit it back then. I think I just read that whole stinking thing and gave it to you like completely unedited. That's why it was like such a massive pile of crap. Tell some Ouija board stories, huh? Well, then find me some Ouija board stories. I mean, okay, all right. So I'll tell you a story. thousands of years ago. No, a long time ago when I was a teenager. I'm 36 years old. And hey, Crowblood, what's up, man? I'm sorry if I'm missing like people talking to me while I'm reading because I can't look at the chat when I'm reading. And that makes me feel bad because if people are saying stuff to me or saying hi to me and stuff like that, I don't ever see it. Because when I'm reading, I gotta like, obviously I gotta look at what I'm reading. Okay. So, well, all right. If somebody wants to find me a Ouija board story that ends in murder, then I will definitely read it. But I have a Ouija board story of my own that I will tell you guys in the meantime, because I pretty much ran out of stories to tell people for now, like stories that I had lined up to read. I mean, so, okay. So when I was a lot younger, I was actually part of a cult. I was actually the leader of a cult. Yeah, I know. Okay, I know. But I'm not anymore, by the way. So we were doing this little Ouija board reading. And whatever it was that came through the Ouija board, it got like ice cold from like the whole okay, first of all, I used to be all into witchcraft. I used to be a necromancer. I used to be into all that stuff because I have actually like infinite stories of paranormal things and things like that, because like when I was younger I used to see demons and they would scare me a lot when I was younger. That's why I started to draw demons and things like that. And because it made me less scared. So I got into witchcraft and things like that to try to help me understand why I seen these things and understand these things better. And that's why like paranormal things, they don't scare me at all. I'm not even like like if something paranormal happens, I go towards it. I don't run away. I don't even get scared. I go right towards it and I'm like, what the fuck's going on over here? So I got into witchcraft pretty deep. I was into Satanism for a little bit, just for a little bit though. It wasn't very long. But I was okay. So I was leading this cult where I grew up here. And we had a Ouija board that we made. It was a homemade one. And this is how we were trying to contact various demons. We weren't trying to contact spirits. We weren't trying to contact anything that we were trying to contact demons. And all around the board, like the diameter of the board, I guess you'd say, all the way up to the ceiling became ice cold. Everything did. Okay, so my hand is like this far on there or something. It was ice cold, but then it was normal from like where the edge of the board stopped. It was normal feeling after that. And I think there was 3 of us that had our hands on the, what's it called? An Oculus or something, whatever it's called. The cursor of the Ouija board, of the spirit board. But so it starts spelling stuff out and everything else. And yes, there you go. Thank you, Haley. And it's spelling things out and everything. And it starts telling us that I am like the son of this powerful demon, and that I am like destined to rule the earth. And it wasn't me doing that. I took my hands off of it because I was like, what the fuck? And this is actually how I like became the leader of the cult. And it was talking about how I was like the son of this freaking powerful demon, and that I was destined to take over the world, and that I would like basically rule everything with some crazy blood and gore shit and everything else. Okay. And like everybody took their hands off of it, and it was still spelling shit out. I swear to God, it was still spelling all this shit out, because everybody was like, what the fuck is going on? And I started telling them, stop fucking around. You know what I mean? When I took my hands off it, I told them, you need to stop fucking around with shit. What the fuck are you doing? And it's still spelling this shit out, telling us this stuff. And but it said all of these things, and I actually ended up getting possessed by yes, Johnny, it was a very powerful entity, actually, and that was actually at a time that I had less control over my own energy. So yeah, so I ended up getting possessed by this thing. It called itself Hell. I have no idea what the fuck it was. I have no idea what its actual name is. Demons don't actually like to give you their real names, because once you know their actual names, it gives you power over them. So demons will lie to you about what their names are. Exorcists will tell you this, that once you know the demons' names, that's where you can get the power over them and cast them out of the people that they are possessing. So they will call themselves by different names. That's why a lot of the times when someone's possessed, they will say that it's Satan possessing them, or Lucifer, the devil, when it's not. It's not. But so I ended up possessed, and that was a very interesting experience, because I would get incredibly violent. Hey, Dark Scholar, thanks for coming, man. I do have a lot of real life encounters. I will tell you guys plenty of real life encounters. I guarantee you that I have more real life encounters than I could tell you within a couple hours on a live stream. I can guarantee you guys that. But so where was I? Okay, I would get violent when this thing would come out, but I would not be aware of. Dark Scholar, do you have it written down, man? Sorry, you guys, I gotta pause this for a minute. Dark Scholar, do you have the true story written down? Do you want to send me the file or the link to my Discord? Thanks, man. All right, I'll read that one when I'm done with this story. All right. Oh yeah, and if you haven't hit the like button, I gotta say this because everybody says this, right? Hit the like button. Please share. If you're not subbed to me, please sub to me, because I appreciate the subs. And yeah, and support each other too. If you guys are not subbed to each other and stuff like that, if you are a narrator, then please feel free to sub each other's channels and support each other too. Yes, smash that like button. Is this Scholars? Yep. All right, just a second. Let me get this set up and ready here. All righty. Yeah, murder the like button. Yeah, there you go. Forewarnings. Oh, I like it, Scholar. You're an excellent freaking author, dude. All right. So I would get violent, but when this thing would come out, I wouldn't be there. I would like phase out. I could see what was going on, but I had no control over my body. I had no control what was being said. There was nothing. I was like a shell, and it was like I was watching something. And so they said that like when I would talk, my voice would echo, and it was like this incredibly deep voice, like probably similar to some of the demon voices I do in my narrations, except for, from what I understand, it was a lot deeper than even those, and there was like overlaid with like another voice or something. But and there was a couple of instances where I would become violent because people would try to confront me while I was being possessed by this hell entity. And there was this one time where this person comes up, and I guess they got in my face and they said something, and I like literally picked them up above my head and threw them across the room. And them hitting the wall on the other side of the room is what snapped me back to being myself. And so all I really remember really from that experience is them like smashing into the wall and then boom, falling down from the side of the wall. And then people were all like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck any of you were talking about. What the fuck you mean? What am I doing? What the fuck are you doing? Because I had no idea what the hell was going on. And I went and I helped that person up, and they were all scared of me. And I'm trying to explain to them, look, I didn't hurt you. What the hell are you talking about? And then people told me what happened. I would like to get a story animated. That'd be fun. But then eventually that thing stopped coming out. I did a few like exorcism spells on myself, meditations. I got my own energy up. I quit doing the Satanism. Like, well, I guess I still practiced necromancy for quite a few years after that. But yeah, I quit messing with the spirit boards. I don't really call them Ouija boards because it wasn't like the freaking board game Ouija board. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of that story. It took me probably 2 months of a lot of meditation and things like that. Yeah, I'd say about 2 months of a lot of meditation, exorcism spells, purifications, things like that, in order for me to get this thing to stop coming out. Necromancy would translate to like death magic, or it's like communicating with the spirits, the other realm, demons, things like that. How long ago was this? Yeah, I guess it's Ouija board or something. I don't know. But this was when it was about 20 years ago, 22, about 22 to 20 years ago. I always called it a Ouija board. I just always say it like that because I say some things weird. But yeah, it was about 22 to 20 years ago. So I'm 36 now. Hey, free music for your videos. What's up, man? MU. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoy the show. I'm just telling people some stories. And I'm about to read a story from the amazing author. Which one is it? The Dark Scholar. There it is. Tell them all. All right. So I will get to reading The Dark Scholars. And then after I read the Dark Scholar story, I will go back to another one of my personal stories if you guys would like. So again, if I miss messages, I do apologize because I'm going to be reading, so I'm going to miss the messages. All right. Tell Them All by The Dark Scholar. It happened again last night. It'll keep happening. As I lay in my bed, cold sweat upon my brow, I cannot help but to think to myself, how did it come to this? 7 years ago, my girlfriend and I had planned a trip to Salem. She was always fascinated by the supernatural and, God, I always have so much trouble saying this word. Macabre? Macabre? Is it macabre? Macabre? How do you pronounce that? I always have trouble with that word for some. Macabre. Okay, that's all right. Okay. She was always fascinated by the supernatural and macabre. I personally didn't care much for it all that much, but I cared for her. God, did I care for her. So, despite my own disinterest, I resigned myself for the trip. As we drove north through the mist and past the trees, I couldn't deny a growing feeling of anxiety within my breast. I was feeling that it was a feeling that I was unfamiliar with. I chalked it up to nerves. After all, I was never one for the supernatural. Of course, I knew the history of Salem. Who doesn't? I knew the trials that sentenced all those innocent women to death. I knew of the many stories of hauntings and strange phenomena that supposedly plagued the town. And while I did feel some small measure of pity for the poor souls that had suffered there, I did not feel some supernatural force at work. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? When we finally reached Salem and parked at the hotel, I felt a small weight lifted off me. I guess it was just car sickness, I thought to myself. I checked us in and we unpacked our stuff. My girlfriend was so happy to be there that she was practically bouncing with excitement. Remembering that smile on her face never fails to bring pangs to my heart, because that was the last day I'd ever see her smile. That day we took in the sights, visited all the tourist attractions that we could, of which there were many, and headed back to our hotel room. We waited until nightfall before we headed out again. We walked along the silent streets of the town. Nothing but the orange yellow glow of the street lamps to hold back the darkness. She held Okay, sorry, I lost my spot when I scrolled down. She held onto my arm and looked up into my face with a mischievous smile that I'd come to fear. My girlfriend was kind of a rebel and always liked to skirt the rules whenever she thought we could get away with it. This was one of those times. "Hey," she said, pointing ahead of us. "Let's go there." I looked in the direction she pointed and saw the dark silhouette of a house. I recognized it immediately. The house was one of many attractions we had visited earlier in the day. "Hey, Em in the game." Sorry, just wanted to say hi. Supposedly, it was haunted by some ghost or some such nonsense. While I held no credence to such ridiculousness, I could not deny that looking upon the place gave me a deep sense of uneasiness. The feeling that I had felt in the car had returned. "I'm not sure," I said. "What are you?" she asked mockingly. "Scared?" "No," I objected in a vain attempt to protect my manhood. She just smirked at me and rolled her eyes. "All right," she said. "Let's go back." "No," I said, catching her arm as she started to walk past me. She looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "We're going to the house." "Great!" she exclaimed as she turned on her heel and started making her way towards the house. I had no choice. If I was going to come out of this whole thing with some measure of dignity intact, I'd have to go into that damned house. With an audible sigh, I trudged along behind her as she practically skipped towards it. As we drew closer to it, its features began to become much clearer to me. In the daylight, it was 3 stories high, with white windows and a matching door to go with them. With white windows and a matching door to go with what the and a matching door to go with them. It was composed of what I knew to be red brick, yet in that horrible darkness I could see neither red nor white, only the same inky blackness that swallowed the features of all that surrounded it. In front of the building was a tree. In the daylight it was so unremarkable that it barely garnered notice from me. During the night, however, its innocence was stripped away. Now its branches appeared no longer Now its branches appeared to no longer be that of a life-bearing gift of nature, but rather the twisted, gnarled fingers of a malevolent creature reaching towards the heavens with malicious intent. Looking at these sights only served to build upon my growing anxiety. What once was a simple pressure in my chest now became that of an awful tingling sensation that crawled up my spine and settled upon my shoulders. But I bore with it for her sake. I don't even know what the hell that was. Did you guys hear that? I don't know what the hell that was. Hey, Peyton, thanks for coming. She really seemed to be enjoying herself, and I didn't want to spoil her fun. She was so happy then. If only I knew. If I had known what would happen, I'd never have taken us to that forsaken place. God help me if I only had known. As we grew closer to the house, the feeling in my chest intensified. My girlfriend seemed completely unabated by any such feeling. I imagined that to her it was just a spooky house, but to me, every step was akin to inching closer to the edge of an abyss. Excuse me. Cold sweat began to pour down my face as we grew closer. In all my years, I'd never felt as afraid as I did in that moment. Every instinct I had was telling me to run, to get away from that awful place. Finally, we reached the door, that godforsaken door. The moonlight hit it at just the right angle as to illuminate it. It appeared to me as pale as death itself. My girlfriend reached out to the door handle and tried to open it. No such luck. I must admit that I felt no small measure of relief at the sight of that. Well, we tried, I said with as much nonchalance as I could muster. Let's just head back to the hotel and get a bite to eat. I'm thinking pizza. You? Hold your horses, she said as she rifled in her pockets for something. After a moment, she produced a small metallic object that I didn't recognize. Then she brought it up to the door handle and started to pick the lock. Where did you learn that? I asked with a mixture of surprise and dismay. A girl's got to have some secrets, you know, she said with a sly smile. And done, she said as the door gave an audible click. She pushed open the door, and it obliged her with an audible groan that seemed to carry through the house and past both of us. Without any hesitation, she strolled confidently into the house. I took one step after her, and the whole world stopped. In an instant, I felt the air get considerably colder. While Salem isn't exactly known for its warm climate, this was something altogether different. It was like being put into a freezer. The hair on my arms rose up. Goosebumps covered my skin. I shook violently. When I didn't follow after her, my girlfriend turned to me. Now she noticed my poor state and came rushing to my side. I realized then that I couldn't hear her. I could see her lips moving. I could feel her touch as she tried to shake me from whatever malignancy that had taken hold of me, but I could not hear her, nor could I speak to her. I was positively frozen in place. Then I fell, and the world went black. How long I was out, I do not know, nor did I know where I went. It was a strange feeling. When I departed the waking world, I could not tell you where I was then. It was like a dream, and yet I was completely aware of myself and my surroundings, only there were no surroundings. Just an inescapable void of nothingness. In fact, from beyond, from beyond came a soft, whispery voice. It was faint, but it was there. Just outside the range of making out what it said. It was there, just outside the range of making out what it said. Then the darkness condensed itself into a shape of a person. This person was composed of pure shadow and held no features on its face. It came towards me. I was fixed in place. I couldn't move. Slowly but surely it closed the gap between us. Only when its non-face was inches away from mine did it speak again. There was no loss of understanding this time. It spoke in that soft, whispery voice that I've come to hate. Tell them all. I woke with a start and was greeted to the walls that were pure white. I was in a hospital. My girlfriend was by my side. Her eyes were red and puffy as I thought she'd been crying. No, as though she'd been crying. When I tried to call her name, my voice came out hoarse and raspy, and I felt a rough pain in my throat. Don't talk, she said as she held my hand. With my free hand, I pointed at my throat with an inquisitive expression on my face. She told me that when I froze up at the house, I had started screaming and wouldn't stop until the paramedics took me away. I didn't remember screaming, but the pain in my throat was evidence enough for me to believe her. I laid my head back down and stared up the ceiling while she did her best to comfort me. Though I had no trouble hearing her this time, her words did not register at all. All I could think of was that voice and the message it carried. Tell them all. Everything fell apart after that. The following night, the shadow person came to me again, bearing the same message as before. Tell them all. I didn't know. I didn't know what it wanted from me. Tell them all. Tell them all what? What did it want? These questions plagued my mind at all hours of the day and night. I tried to understand just what happened at that godforsaken place. I didn't understand. I still don't. Was it a spirit, or was I just losing my mind? I did not know. I began to fear the very concept of sleep, knowing that thing was waiting for me to close my eyes. I began to do whatever I could to fend off sleep. I would fill my hours with meaningless work and chores. I'd spend money on an overabundance of energy drinks and coffee to keep me awake. But all creatures need sleep. So did I. And sooner or later my body would crumble and I'd collapse, and without fail, the thing would be waiting for me, always saying the same thing. Tell them all. Each and every time I awoke from that horrid nightmare, my determination to never go back intensified. I began to sleep less and less, but the longer I stayed awake, the more my mind deteriorated. I began to hallucinate the shadow person, and in time, I began to hear its message, even when I was awake. Tell them all. Tell them all. Tell them all. The stress began to destroy me, inside and out. I became much shorter with people, especially my girlfriend. She had been there since the beginning, and though I'm not proud of it, she'd been there since I slowly destroyed myself. I lashed out at her every chance I got, not because she had done anything wrong, but simply because she was the only one around for me to vent my frustration at. Naturally, my abuse against her and myself finally became too much for her to bear, so she left me. I remember being very upset at the time, but looking back at it now, I believe that she made the right decision for both of us. Her leaving me had finally been the wake-up call that I needed. I checked myself into a mental rehabilitation facility and spent the next few years going through psychotherapy and consuming medically prescribed pills. It wasn't easy. There were times when I'd believed that I'd made a horrible mistake and wanted nothing more to be free from that place. But in time, the hallucinations receded and I began to see the creature less and less. It wasn't gone completely, I would I would have several nights where I wouldn't see the thing at all. In time, I'd finally regained some of the person I'd once been and was cleared for release. I never shared this story with anyone before today, but as I've said, the creature never completely disappeared. There are times when I sleep that it returns to me with its incessant demand. Tell them all. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it wants. But I'm sharing this story with you all in the hope of finally putting this chapter of my life to a close. Now that you know my story, I have one thing to ask of you. Please, tell them all. That was a good story, Scholar. Here's a story from Kenny the Koala. I have a story for you. Once upon a time, subscribe to Kenny the Koala. The end. That was it. All right. So that's a true story, Scholar? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Kenny the Koalas was a true story, but not if nobody subscribes. Then it was a fiction. I have yet to Scholar, though. I have yet to not enjoy a story that I've read of yours, because you're a really good author. Yeah, poor Kenny there. You end up leaving this with less subs. Oh, cool. Nice. It's pretty intense story, man. That would be some serious business to go through. So let me check Twitter. See if nope, nobody sent me any more stories on Twitter. So I guess well good, Kenny. That means that it was a true story after all. Yeah, he told the simplified version. And you were like, hey, dude, can I actually write a story about this? Because that's a pretty fucking serious business story. It was Outcast that subbed you, Kenny. Oh, yeah, that's hilarious. All right, so I guess I could say another of my personal experiences if you guys would like. Yes, murder the like button. I think pretty much everyone's gave me a like that's been in here though. So if anyone wants to send me another story, then you can send me the link on Twitter, or you can send me the link in a DM on Discord. And in the meantime, I can tell you another of my own personal stories. So, this one will be one of the first. I see the very first paranormal experience I had ties in with another paranormal experience I had. And like for almost all my life leading up to the other paranormal experience, I thought that the first one was just like this horrible nightmare that I remembered like the entire time. So I won't go into that one yet. All right, hold on. Hold on. Scholar sent me another story, so I'm going to set this up, and then after this story, I wait a minute. What the is this the story? Uh Hold on. Scholar, is the story called Happy New Year that you were trying to send me? And I just lost my chat again. How beautiful is that? Oh, okay, good. All right, hold on. Let me get rid of this Happy New Year one then. Wait. Wait, so it is the Happy New Year one? Oh, I already had it then. There was like a link to the Happy New Year one in the other one you sent me. All right. Okay, so all right. So I will wait. What's going on here? No, Kenny. All right. So I will go with this one. So when I was really young, I used to live in, a house, and my bedroom was facing the hallway. So no, Kenny. So I would lay in bed and I would look down the hallway, and there was a nightlight at the end of the hallway. And so I used to stare at the nightlight every night because, like I told you before, I always seen demons and things like that. The nightlight, it gave me comfort. And so like I always saw demons. So I couldn't even begin to describe to you every instance of me like seeing a demon, because it just happened all the freaking time. And by the way, I've never been diagnosed with any sort of mental illness or anything like that. Hey Danny, thanks for coming, man. Oh, and you know what? I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. If any of you ever feel like supporting my channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my PayPal in the description. And that's the only time I'm going to say this. I might say it like once every live stream. Other than that, I'm not going to. Because I don't expect you guys to do that. If you do, that's freaking awesome. But if you don't, that's fine too. I do this stuff because I enjoy doing this stuff. Ultimately, I would like to make money, but it doesn't have to come directly out of your guys' pockets. You know what I'm saying? So, that's the end game here. Yes, Haley, you are not allowed to, but there's a good reason why you're not allowed to. It's because you're supposed to be saving up money to come see me. Okay, so I'm laying in bed. I'm looking down the hallway. Now, at the right of the hallway, almost to where the nightlight is, but not quite, is my brother's bedroom door, because I have a half brother. I have one sibling, and it's a half brother. And then there was like kind of a corner right there because there was like a linen closet right there. So I'm just sitting there staring at the nightlight like I do every night, trying to get comfortable and everything else. And yes, I did need a nightlight. I was like maybe 5, 4. I don't know. I can't remember. I was pretty young when this happened. But so I'm staring at the nightlight, and all of a sudden I hear this little giggle, like this little creepy fucking giggle. And it was like, but it was like way creepier than that. It was way creepier than I could do. And it was like a disembodied like echo of a giggle. It was very odd. And all right, boogeyman. And so, of course, I'm freaked out because I didn't know what the hell that was, but I heard it. My brother was sleeping. I was the only one awake at the house at the time because it always took me longer to go to sleep because I was always paranoid. I'd see things in my closet. I'd see things on my ceiling. I'd see things in my windows, and I was on the second floor. So I hear the giggle again. And so I got the covers all up on me and everything else, looking down there with my eyes all bulging out. And all of a sudden, I see this shadow of a young girl, a very young girl. She had to have been probably around my age, between the ages of like 3 and 7 somewhere. You know what I mean? Around 5 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But she was wearing this old fluffy style dress, but it was only a silhouette. It was like a complete and utter shadow that I seen. But it was like clearly the big fluffy style, looking like almost like a Victorian style dress or something weird like that. Even though the house wasn't like that old, it was still look like an old looking dress. And she goes skipping by, doing this little giggle, skipping on by, and goes right through the wall into where my brother's room would have been. Oh yeah, Haley. Haley gets followed around by this little girl. And it's a spirit of a little girl. But I don't know because I was super, super young, Haley, when this happened. But yeah, she was just giggling by, skipping on down the way, and went right through my brother's wall. And I was just like, what the just happened there? And I'm just a little kid, But I mean, that's all the experience was. It wasn't like something phenomenal happened or anything like that. But I was a little kid. That shit was scary. You know what I mean? Even though it was just a little girl, like nowadays, I wouldn't be scared of something like that at all. But back then, I was still scared of stuff like that. That was when I had just started drawing the demons I saw and stuff like that. Wait, what's going on here? Hey, nobody's gonna be eating Kenny, all right? Kenny is my friend. I forbid the eating of koala in my live stream. Yeah, forewarnings. She was creepy. She was creepy. And then I'll tell one more of my personal stories. Before I read the other story from Scholar. So this one, Again, I don't remember how old I was. I was pretty young. My great grandmother had passed away, and she was a very, very sweet lady. Like one of the nicest ladies you could ever meet. She was just a sweetheart. And oh no, you can keep chatting, April. I was just messing around. But she was a very sweet old lady. And I was down in my basement, and we had a furnace and stuff like that, and everything else. And I'm down in my basement. My basement was like an old Michigan basement. It was like stone walls and stuff like that. It was creepy down there. And I had been down there quite a few times, over the years and things like that. I want to say I might have been around 6 or 7 when she passed away. I'm not 100% sure. But when I'm down there, I was alone and I heard some crying. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Now, my mother, she used to babysit when I was young. And I can't remember if this happened during a time where other kids were there or not. I can't remember. All I remember is being down in the basement and this happening. But I'm trying to figure out where this crying noise is coming from. And I keep looking around the basement, and I get drawn to the furnace. And I go over to the furnace, and it's louder. Like it's coming from the furnace. And I'm putting my ear up to the furnace, and it's hot because it was an older furnace. I had the fire in it and everything else. I got my ear up to it, and the crying noise is coming from the inside of the furnace. But then all of a sudden, the crying noise turns into screaming. And to the point where I opened the furnace, I opened the little door on the furnace, and in the fire, I could hear my great grandmother screaming, just screaming, help me, oh no, help me, blah, blah, just in horrible, horrible pain. And I didn't know what to do. I was a little kid. I told my mom, and my mom got upset with me. She just thought I was making it up and everything else because my mom really loved her. It was her grandmother. And but yeah, it really, really scared me, and I didn't understand because like back then I was like even too young to really understand like the concept of anything like hell or heaven or anything like that. I didn't really understand any of that anyways, even the concept of it. So I didn't understand why I was hearing Grandma Dubois, that was her name. Well, that was what I called her. I didn't understand why I was hearing Grandma Dubois screaming from the fire in the furnace. And years later, like less than 10 years ago, I found out that, now I'm not saying this is some reason why she was burning in hell or something. I'm not even saying she was burning in hell, because I stand by that she was one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And she was religious and everything else. She was a very wonderful lady. But she had a child when she was 13 with some police officer, and she ended up putting the child up for adoption because she was so young. Her parents made her, and nobody in the family knew that this child existed until after she had passed away. And so I don't know, maybe she had to deal with something for a little while from some some sort of karma she built in from that or something. I don't know, but that's I didn't know at the time. I didn't know a single negative thing about the lady at all, because my only experience of her was she was this very sweet old lady, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience, and it really scared me because I loved her. She was a nice lady. But okay, I will read the scholar's story now. And again, if I miss some comments, I am not ignoring you. And again, I will say that if any of you are narrators and have channels and are not sub to each other, please support each other, because I think that a strong community is important. I think because, I know that all of the friends that I have, at least the vast majority of the friends that I have in the horror genre, are smaller channels like myself. So I am all about it. Support each other, you know, get to know each other, work with each other, check out the Horror Hive. Yeah, the Dark Scholar's an author. He's a really good author. All right, so speaking of the Dark Scholar being an author, here's another story from him. The Dark Scholar, Happy New Year. New Year's, a time for looking back on the past and looking forward to the future. All over the world, people celebrate this time of year without exception. People of every country, ethnicity, and faith are brought together for a single shared night. It is truly an amazing thing, is it not? Personally, New Year's is my favorite time of year, the 4th of July being a close second. My favorite thing about the two holidays are the fireworks, so dazzling with their explosions of color. It is truly something to behold. I usually spend the most New Year's sitting on a random rooftop, waiting for the fireworks to start, which is just what I'm doing at the time of this writing. It is an hour to midnight right now. I am here, laying down on this rooftop, waiting. I hope that you had a really good New Year, and I mean that. I mean, who'd want their last year to be a bad one? After all, I know what it's like to have a bad year. You're probably reading this and wondering just who the hell I am. Well, let me remind you. You were my best friend. You were my only friend. Did you know that? No, I guess you didn't. You were always too busy to notice something so unimportant. Too busy having fun with your more popular friends, and I understand. No, no, really, I do. But you see, what I can't understand is why you'd hurt me the way that you did. I loved you. I didn't know it at first, but after you and I did what we did, it became so obvious to me. Do you remember that night you and I went out behind your parents' house? It was New Year's then, too. The fireworks were so beautiful that night. It was our tradition. Every year, you and I would lay on the roof of your house and watch the fireworks. It was always my favorite time of year. You made New Year's my favorite holiday, but that night you were different. You didn't want to go up to the roof. You took my hand and led me behind your house, through the backyard and into the woods. I usually was too afraid to go in there, but the touch of your hand made me feel so much better. Eventually, you brought me to a clearing. It had the softest grass I ever felt in my life. You laid down, and I laid down next to you. I lay there, staring into the night sky, waiting for the fireworks to start, and you called my name. You looked right at me, but you had a look on your face I had never seen before. Then you kissed me. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel, but before I knew it, I was kissing you too. That night, we made fireworks of our very own, and it was amazing. That was the best night of my life. I'd never been so happy. The next day, I was the happiest person in the world. How could I not be? After all that time, all of those years of thinking that I'd never find my other half, there you were, right in front of me. But then you changed. Sorry. Dang it. Hold on. You weren't the same. Whenever I tried talking to you, you'd just come up with some excuse to leave. Every day I saw you less and less. Eventually, you just stopped hanging out with me. Whenever I'd go over to your house to see you, you'd just send your mom to tell me that you weren't home. I knew she was lying. I could hear you and your friends laughing from your room. I cried myself to sleep that night. I didn't understand what I did wrong. why you were treating me that way. What did I do? Why? That question kept going around and around in my head. Why? 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 The next day at school, I got my answer. I heard that you were going to prom with Alex Patterson, which is almost my son's name, which is hilarious. I couldn't believe it. After all that we had gone through, after our night together, you just left me alone. I expected to feel sadness like before, but I didn't. Instead, I felt anger. Anger at that bitch for taking you away from me. Anger at your mom for lying to my face. But most of all, I felt anger at you for making me feel the way I did. I tried confronting you about it, but you just yelled at me to stay away. You called me a stalker and a freak. From that day forward, that's all I was, a freak. They pointed and laughed, whispered behind my back. Go ahead, laugh. Laugh at my freakishness for all the world to see. I promised myself that at the end, I'd be laughing at them, and I will laugh at you. As the year went on, people loved you more and more. If they didn't want you, they wanted to be you. Or if they didn't want you, they wanted to be you. As for me, everybody hated me more and more. Sometimes they'd wait for me after school, to remind the freak what their place was. The only place where I could find peace was at home with my parents. They were the only ones who loved me, especially my dad. He came to me one night and said that he'd take me camping, just like we used to. It was the first time I left the house in months. Dad and I went out into those same woods where you took my virginity. He didn't know about that. He didn't know about any of it. How could I tell him what you did to me? All he knew is that I wasn't happy, so he decided to spend time with me the only way he could. Dad always went out hunting for our dinner. He always been old-fashioned like that. It had been a really long time since I went camping with him. This time, though, he had something else in mind. I wasn't just along for the ride this time. He decided to teach me how to hunt. The rifle was heavier than I thought it would be. He taught me how to hold the rifle right, how to gauge the distance of the target, how to take things like wind and moisture into account before taking the shot. He even taught me how to skin and gut our prize. He was very thorough. Sometimes I think he knew. I think he knew what I was going to do. Maybe he wanted me to do it. I don't know. At the time, I was just happy to get out of the house, to feel like I was actually useful, to not feel like such a freak. Things were starting to look up. I was finally starting to let go. But you just had to take that from me, too. New Year's had come again. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I remembered our night together. Seeing how I wasn't going to get to sleep that night, I decided I might as well catch our dinner for the next day. I mean, my shooting shouldn't bother anyone with all the fireworks going off. They wouldn't even notice. I went into the woods and climbed into my favorite nest. Then I saw you two through my scope. It was no secret that you and Alex had hooked up before. But did you have to bring her here? To our spot? You didn't see me from the deer stand across the clearing, but I could see you. I could see everything. Both of you lying together under the stars. Then you kissed her. Something broke inside of me. Suddenly, every single bad thing I felt just came rushing back, harder than before. I felt sadness and anger, but most of all, I felt the need for you to understand, to know what I was feeling. I wanted you to know what it was like to have your life ruined. I needed you to understand what that was like. It wasn't a conscious decision. I saw the two of you rolling around in the grass. I saw her get on top of you. I saw the crosshairs center on her head. Before I knew it, she was slumped over you, blood running from the hole in her head. I'll never forget the way you screamed. As you sat there, covered in her blood, screaming, I finally felt something like peace again. Not like when I was hunting animals. This was something else. For the first time since all of it started, I finally felt right. I found a New Year's tradition. They never did figure out who did it, did they? After all, people down here shoot up into the sky on New Year's all the time. But oh, didn't they just cry and cry over that whore? How many guys did she screw exactly? At least half the football team. And there they were, talking about how it was such a tragedy she was gone, how she was such a sweetheart, whatever. Do you know how many times that sweetheart and her friends would torture me? Remember when I wore a hat for a month? That's because she and her friends thought it would be funny to hold me down and shave my head. And there was the time they beat me in the gym shower and stole my clothes from my locker. I had to stay there until nightfall and sneak into my own house so that my parents wouldn't see. Did you know about that? Did you even care? I doubt it. I sat there in the same auditorium as you and them, watching as you all bawled your eyes out. You know something? People always say that the first kill is the hardest. But the thing is, I didn't feel bad at it at all. I didn't feel bad at all. I didn't exactly go out there with a plan to kill Alex, It just kind of happened. But I gotta say, it felt pretty damn good. I wanted to feel that way again. Luckily for me, oh no, wait, and I wanted to feel that way again. Luckily for me, I would get my chance. I told you the 4th of July is my second favorite holiday. Now you know why. They never heard the shots. That year, 6 little skanks got put into 6 little boxes. They were all closed casket, of course. After all, I was a little more thorough with them. It wasn't hard. I mean, your dad wasn't ever really good at locking up his guns. And your mom always left the screen door unlocked. Guess she thought that she lived in a safe neighborhood. Boy, was she wrong. Look at the shock on your face when they arrested your dad. Oh, it was priceless. I gotta say, I didn't expect your mom to hang herself. That was just some icing on the cake. I mean, wow, it couldn't be more perfect. I went to check up on you after the funeral. You were so distraught. You put your head on my shoulder and cried and cried. We talked for hours just like we used to. But this time, I didn't feel any of the affection I once felt for you. I just went there to make sure you understood, and boy, did you. You left soon after to go live with your aunt and uncle. I thought about going after you, but I figured you'd keep. Besides, I still had work to do. I bet people thought I was done, but oh no. They were just the latest in a long line of people who tortured me throughout high school. I'm sure you remember the following years. Every New Year's, every 4th of July, bodies would pile up. Oh, they tried to keep people safe, bless their hearts. They really did. They even put up a curfew and everything. But you know how teenagers are, always eager for a party. They just couldn't help themselves. Neither could I. Eventually, I got them all. Every last one. And it was just wonderful. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't done. You were still out there. I gotta give you credit. You really made me work for it. Changed your name and everything. By the time I found you, you had changed so much. I almost thought I had the wrong guy. But nope, it was you. I bet your family thought you were paranoid. Not paranoid enough. Now here I am, another New Year's, another rooftop, waiting for the fireworks to start, waiting for you. I can't wait to see your face when you realize you're in my sights and that you always were. Happy New Year. Welcome back, Mr. Reality. The first comment on this is I enjoyed the writing, but I can't help but to think that you slightly overreacted. Snap back to reality. Oh, were you listening to me while you were driving, man? Well, I'm glad you didn't like fall asleep or something, though. You know. All right, so I have. Hold on. I have another story from the Dark Scholar. Oh, what's up with that? Oh, there we go. All right, so I will say I will tell you guys another one of my personal stories, and then I will read another one of Scholar stories. Or hold on, let me check my Twitter. All right, I still do not have any other messages besides Scholar stories. So, alrighty, let me think. All right, I'm going to tell you guys a big one that actually fucked me up for a while. So, when this happened, I want to say when I was about 14 or 15, right around that. I was not on any drugs, which I'm going to be honest, back then I did a lot of drugs. I just did a lot of LSD back then, but at the time I was on no drugs. So I was getting ready to go to bed, and I'm laying in my bed, and like, okay, let me describe my room. I had a very small room at the time, and I had a bunk bed, but I slept on the bottom and I was the only person in my room. So right to my right was my window, like right next to my bed, because my bed was up against the wall. So the window was like right there. And then, to my left was out into the room. The room, I want to say, was maybe like 8 foot by 8 foot, maybe not even that big. It was a pretty small room. And I had like a dresser and side table and, all kinds of crap in there. So there really wasn't any room in there at all. So I'm laying there and I am facing to the right, facing towards my window. And I had my eyes closed for a little while, but then I opened them and my blinds, like Venetian blinds, are literally doing this. They're going like this weird little wavy thing. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, what the fuck is going on there? And then all of a sudden, from behind me, I start hearing some like whispering, except for it wasn't just whispering. It was like the dragging of chains, and it was like it sounded like hundreds or thousands, like just tons of voices whispering and moaning like in pain, like behind me. So I'm like, what the hell is this? So I turn around and I look behind me and I see all these little shadows going through each other, all up through my room, going all through each other, overlapping each other, going through my wall, everything else, just insane amounts of shadows everywhere, going right through each other. And at this point in time, I was actually less scared of the paranormal, but what ended up happening did end up freaking me out, but I digress. So So I just turned around facing the window again because I'm like, okay. So I just turned around facing the window again, and the window's still doing this little wavy crap. And as I'm laying there, the whispering gets louder and louder and louder until it's like all around my fucking head. And then all of a sudden, shoot, everything goes silent. Absolutely silent. But the window's still doing this wavy thing the entire time. And so once it goes silent, I lay there for a second just to, to see if it was going to start back up. But I ended up turning around. And when I turned around, there was these demons in my room. There was 5 of them all together. There was one of them that was very, very tall. And it was so tall, it had to have been 8 foot tall or taller. But I would say about 8 foot tall, probably. But its head was like way down because my ceiling was only like 7 foot tall. So its head was, way down. Its shoulders were like on the ceiling and it was like hunched down. And then the other ones were like about 7 foot tall or just above 7 foot tall because they were just kind of, had their heads tilted like that. And what they looked like, they had no face. There was no face whatsoever, no eyes, anything of that nature. They were a silhouette of something that looked like it was like, picture a ring wraith from the Lord of the Rings, except for just like the shadow silhouette of it. And that's what they look like. They had no distinct features whatsoever, except for that they were incredibly tall and they were just black shadows. And they were just standing there looking at me, not moving, not doing anything. I even like half climbed out of the bed and got in one of their faces to try to like focus on it to see if it was actually there. And I could still see it there. It was like darker than the dark around it. So I sat there for a minute to see if they were going to do anything. And eventually I got up, hit my lights on, and they weren't there. So I go out there into the living room. My parents were still awake. And I said, Mom, there are some demons in my room. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there's demons in my room, Mom. They are in my room and they're staring at me laying in bed. Hey, what's up, Devil Jack? Thanks for stopping in, man. I'm just telling some personal stories, and I've been reading some of the Dark Scholar stories. So I'm telling my mom that these demons are in my room. And my mom is the type of person that she is very supportive. Like, she will not sit there and tell me that I am like hallucinating or that I am making something up or anything like that. She will always say, I believe that you believe you are seeing these things, that sort of thing. And so I told her, why don't you come in my room, lay down in my bed next to me, and I'll tell you if they come back. So my mom lays down in my bed. I lay down next to her, lights are off. I'm sitting there in silence. And all of a sudden I see these things coming through my walls, the demons coming through my walls and like going back into like the formation they were before. But they kept going in and then coming back out. And I was telling her, look, there's one. And I'm pointing them all out to her. And she's like, I don't see anything. You're right. I don't see nothing. And it kept going on. I kept pointing them out to her. Well, that night was the beginning of something that lasted for months. All right. So that night I seen him for the first time. For many, many nights afterwards, I would be walking at night and I would walk by a car, whatever the case may be. I would see my shadow go by. Then I would see 5 more shadows that were much bigger than mine, much darker than mine, go right by. The shadows, all the dark shit. You know how when it's nighttime out, like when there's shadow in the darkness, you know what I mean? Like how it's darker. I could see them like there every time. And like in school, when they turned the lights out to turn on the TV and to watch a freaking movie in the classroom, I could see these things in the corners of the freaking classroom. And I'd be freaking out in school seeing this crap. And these things followed me for months. There was at one point in time where I literally got up in one's fucking face and I'm like cussing at it, telling it to get the fuck out of here, to leave me the fuck alone. These things never once spoke to me. These things never once tried to do anything to me. They only followed me around. I felt their presence all around me at all times. Even when I didn't see them, I could feel them there. I never was able to figure out their names. I was never able to figure out why they were there. I was never able to figure out anything about them. But I actually felt them for years after that I even stopped seeing them, because I only seen them for months. It was shortly after I got in the one's face and I cussed it out that I had stopped actually seeing them. But for the longest time, they were following me around. I'd be hanging out at my friend's house and I would see them. I'd be just walking wherever I was walking. I would see them. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter where I went. Didn't matter where I was. If there was a shadow for it to be hanging out in, it was there. I don't know forewarnings. I was never able to. I was never once was I able to even get one of them to utter a single word to me that entire time. I tried to. Eventually, I was like trying to figure out what the hell they even wanted. Because why the hell are you guys following me around like this? Why is one of you taller than the other four? You know, why are you all freaking like 7 foot, 8 foot tall to begin with? What the fuck? Why don't you have faces? Why don't you speak? I don't know. I have no idea what they were exactly, because they weren't just normal like shadow people, because they had like the cloaks. You know what I mean? Because normal shadow people will look more like just a person for the most part, from my experience. But these things were giant, and they just looked like they were draped in like these really heavy cloaks. And I could never figure out why they were there. I never could. And eventually I stopped seeing them. And many, many years later, I don't even really feel them around me anymore. Every once in a while, I'll get like this weird little tingle, because that's when I would see a demon, or like when a demon was close by, I would get this weird tingle up my spine, and it would like make me like twitch. And then I would look over and a demon would be there. And the demons, for the most part, they weren't coming for me. They were going about whatever normal business these demons would be doing. They would be doing it. They would be cutting through my freaking yard, or they would be a couple of yards away and I'd see them across the street or something like that, going someplace. And a demon trying to give me ASMR. You never know. But so most of the time, these demons would just be going about their business, whatever it is that demons do. I figured, just assume they were going to destroy someone's life or whatever. I don't know. And if they noticed me seeing them, they would get freaked out. They would be like, they would start acting weird. Like, why the hell is this dude looking at me? Because people aren't supposed to see them. Like, I've met a lot of people that would like tell me that, oh, I see demons. And then they would describe something to me that didn't even make sense to me. Like, bro, I don't think you're seeing demons. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what that was, you know? And because like, there are so many different kinds of demons that I've seen, that it's like, I've seen these primal, almost reptile looking demons that those are the ones that I actually see the most of. And that's the ones that I started drawing when I was younger, because those are the ones that I would see the most of when I was young. And these things were scary. They had huge teeth. They had like double forked tongues. They had these spikes coming out their fucking back. They were just utterly primal. Like, they looked like they could just rip a human just limb from limb without even attempting. They could just do it just for fun if they wanted to. They look that way. I don't know. I don't know what they were. I don't even know if those ones are able to communicate. I have no idea, because it seemed like they were more like animalistic than anything else. And then I seen other ones that looked more human, but they weren't human at all. Like they had spikes on their heads, and their faces resembled skulls. Like they didn't have nose, but they had flesh on their faces, but they didn't have lips. They had sharp teeth. They had these weird bent legs that were like a fucked up ostrich leg or something like that. But then they were like really thin up top, and these long gangly arms with spikes on the freaking elbows and these nasty claws. And then I seen the ones with the robes. I've seen those ones. I've seen other ones that resembled more human, that looked more humanoid than anything else, except for you. They weren't human either. They had slight things about them that you could tell they weren't human: eye color, skin tone, the way their teeth were, the way their ears were, the way their hair was. There was just things about them that they obviously weren't human, and other people weren't seeing them either. But like I said, 99% of the time, these things are going about their business. They're just doing what they're doing whatever the hell they want, and had nothing to do with me. But I will read this other story by the Dark Scholar. Oh, this one's shorter. This one is called I Am War. In the beginning, there was only darkness. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. But light alone does not banish darkness. No. The light casts shadows. There is no darkness without light, and there is no light without darkness. He saw this. He knew this. And that is why he was made. Do you know of whom I speak? I speak of his favorite, most tragic child. I speak of who is forever damned. I speak of Lucifer. I was not yet brought into being when he was made. You know not the pain that our Father felt in his heart when he was born. This child, this angel, he who was doomed from the very beginning. Many of you have forgotten, even those of you who call yourself the faithful. You who lie, steal, kill, whore. You have forgotten the single truth, the one that tells you all you need to know of Lucifer. Angels have no free will. Do you understand what that means? He never had any choice in what he did. He was, by design, doomed to fail, doomed to be cast into the eternal fires of hell, doomed always and forever, because for there to be one of light, there must also be one of dark. Such was the way of the cosmos. And God wept, for he sent his most favorite angel forever into exile. So the story was told to me anyways, for you see I was not there, not I, nor any of my brothers. For you see, we were not made by he. Didn't you know? No? Of course you didn't. How could you? You are just children. Children stumbling in the dark. You who were made in his image, yet lack any of his wisdom. We were made by you, we four. Those of you who know his work know of us. But for the sake of those who remain ignorant, allow me to enlighten you. The oldest of us are twins. They were born when the first of you defied him, when they, in their blissful ignorance and childish innocence, turned from him and educated themselves on the true reality of their world. For their crime, one that was destined from the very beginning, for the first time they felt hunger and disease wreck their bodies, and from their pain they were born. The first was famine, then pestilence soon after. These two, born of pain and anguish, were the very first of us. Then, a generation later, when one would spill the blood of his own brother, the third would be born, Death. These three were all there were for generations. Three brothers born of pain, desperation, and cruelty, each of them complementing one another in terrible, tragic symmetry. Then came the day of my birth. Two armies, long forgotten to time, stood across a valley from one another, their weapons made of stone and wood. The moment they charged at one another, I was born into existence. I, who am the youngest yet most powerful of all of my brothers, for I am the culmination, cu, blah, 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 culmin, I am the culmin, I can't say this word for some reason. Culmination, Q. I am the collection of all three brought together for an aberrant beauty. I, who will lead his armies into the final battle. I, who will be there when the faithful are spared and the condemned are damned. I, who will do what he was born to do. I am your child. I am war. Culmination. For I am the culmination of all three brought together in abhorrent beauty. All right. My bad. I knew what it meant. I just couldn't say it for some reason. Like if I was actually narrating the story for a video, I totally would have looked that up on how to pronounce it. How many of you other narrators have to do that? It was a pretty cool story, dude. It was a cool story. And it makes sense. It does make sense. For sure. Because man did make all of those things, in our own ways. Through our own transgressions of fuckery, we made all of that. Yeah, it was kind of like that, Haley. Only after 73 takes. See, it usually isn't that bad for me. And if I do have that much trouble pronouncing a word, I will just look up the pronunciation of it, listen to it a couple times, say it a couple times, and then go back. All right. So what's messed up is Meg sent me a story, and as far as I know, she never came back. She never even showed up to the freaking live stream for me to read the story to her that she picked out. Where are you from, Porn Warnings? Oh, you're from Boston. Yeah, it is pretty crazy how many different accents are just in America. And I just mean American accents. There's quite a few different ones. All right. Well, it's been 2 hours, so I think this might sum up the first Murder Monday live stream. So what did you guys think? Merca. Did you guys enjoy it? There's only 9 of you that held on for the whole ride. I always enjoy your stories there, Dark Scholar. I always do. I really like you as an author. I think you are a great author. Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing this every single Monday. And Scholar, you're more than welcome to join me whenever possible and throw me up some more stories to read. And anyone else is more than welcome to join and suggest any stories for me to read as well. So, and I will throw in, I still have quite a few personal experiences I could share as well. So, yeah, quite a few personal experiences actually. That was just like scratching off the surface, honestly. Dab. Spades, did you just get here, Spades? Were you here the whole time, just like lurking or what? Because that's the first time I've seen you say anything. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed yourself. Thank you. I know quite a few of you actually stayed around the whole time, and I appreciate that. I know some of you, it is really late. Haley. Man, my chat keeps on dropping out. What is up with that? Why does my chat always do that? It says, yep, 0 fucks. Yeah, and everybody, if you haven't hit it, hit that like button for me. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And I mean, I would tell you to retweet, but I mean, it's over now, so there ain't no sense in retweeting, right? So it'll be over until next Monday. And my chat's dead. Oh, you got one for me to narrate next Monday? You I don't really have an Australian accent out there, mate. But yeah, whatever stories you guys want, just DM them to me on Discord. Mr. Reality, you can DM it to me in Discord. Oh, you can do it to me on Twitter too, though. So either way, Discord or Twitter. Either way, whichever works for you. Yeah, see, that's kind of like why I'm glad I did it on Mondays, because I'm hoping that I can help Mondays not suck so much. That'd be helpful, right? That's what I figure, at least, because Mondays suck. But all right, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and this was fun. I had a really good time. Yeah. Oh, 50 Shades of Hey. 50 Shades of Hey, hey, hey. Yeah. Mondays be trash. All right. Yep. You all have a wonderful week. There's plenty of you, I'm sure, that I'll chat with randomly and everything else throughout the week anyways. And Haley, I talk to you every chance I get because I love you, Haley. Yep. All of you have a wonderful, like Scholar just said, have a wonderful morning, day, and night. And I am signing off. Goodbye.